Thank you, Dr. Williams, which is still funny calling you that. I know him as DJ, and believe it or not, I met this guy on the bus stop. But no, thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm excited and grateful for this opportunity to speak with you all today. Just in case you have not had a chance to take a look at the topic for today's webinar, this webinar is going to highlight ways in which undergraduate students can make financial gains by monetizing their current math skills. In addition to that, we will address how students can manage their earnings while making use of other financial opportunities. So really quickly, I will start by reiterating a little bit of what Dwight has already mentioned to you guys about me. He failed to mention that I was born and raised in the greatest city in the world, which is Chicago, Illinois. Born and raised there, and then took off to Tallahassee, Florida in 2007 to earn my bachelor's in mathematical sciences from Florida A&M University, the great FAMU, which I don't know if y'all can see it on my shirt or not. Thank you. Graduated in 2011 and then went to Florida State, which is just across the train tracks, still in Tallahassee. Got my master's in financial mathematics from there. Followed up by a PhD in industrial engineering from Florida State University. Shortly after I left Florida State, I moved to Atlanta to start as a math professor at Morehouse College. Stayed there for about 2 years before starting a postdoctoral fellowship at Georgia Tech in the School of Industrial and Systems Engineering. I was there for about 1.5 years before going to my current role now, which is as an operations research analyst at Racetrack Petroleum, which if you haven't heard, it's essentially a gas and fuel company in the southern parts of the world, of the nation, excuse me. All right, so I know you look at that and think, oh, this guy has done a lot, he's accomplished a lot. I'm very humble, very grateful, but that is not why I feel like I am capable or qualified to speak on this topic, and it's based on this slide right here. So I was blessed and privileged to be able to watch 3 of my older siblings go to college before me. So after learning about their stories and the stories of their friends, and even some of my friends that went to college before me, everyone tried to prepare me for becoming a broke college student. Right? Everyone would always tell me, you got to be prepared. You're gonna be eating ramen noodles all the time, and can't wait to go home to get a home cooked meal. And so after hearing all those stories, I became determined not to be a broke college student. So I spent a lot of time in high school. I applied to over like 10 different colleges, and I applied to over 30 different scholarships. So those in-house at schools and external scholarships. And through all that time and effort that I put in, I was rewarded with a full scholarship from Florida A&M University, and also 5 additional outside scholarships. Some of them that were paid directly to the school, some that were paid directly to me. And then when I got there, I decided, okay, the scholarships are not enough. I need to do a little bit more to continue on this path of not being a broke college student. And so I worked as a tutor in the math lab at FAMU. I was an FGAMP scholar, which is the Florida, Georgia, Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. It's a program that is in Florida and Georgia. For STEM majors, which is another way for us to earn money as well as interacting with some of my peers and colleagues. And then in addition to that, every single summer of my college career, I held a summer internship. One was at the, CNA Finance Corporation in Chicago, and then again at Northern Trust Bank in Chicago. And then I also did 2 internships at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston. So this is the slide that I feel most proud about in terms of the topic that we're going to talk about today. How was I able to use college and couple that with my hustle in order to monetize my math skills? And so I want to start by talking about this topic today. Here's an outline for the different topics that I'll discuss. First, we're going to talk about how do we prepare strategically for the money? So before we even get to the part of how do we obtain and get the money, how do we prepare strategically before we get there? Then once we're strategically prepared for these opportunities, we'll talk about how can we properly secure the money. I was tempted to put secure the bag, but I opted for secure the money for now, but I couldn't resist to put it there. And then once we've got the money, how do we manage it? How do we protect and save that money? All right, here comes a slide with the nice animation. So let's talk a little bit about preparing strategically for the money. How do we perfect our skills to put us in positions to be able to obtain that money? Okay, so if you are going to monetize your skills, at the very least, you have to be good at it, right? No one's going to pay you for stuff that you're not at least good at. But then once you become good at it, you have to master it, right? And so how do we master our skills? Well, in the words of the great Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice, right? You have to practice in order to perfect your skills. And I like to use the statement that says practice makes permanent. Not necessarily that practice makes perfect, because honestly, there is no such thing as perfect. But you are building your permanent habits the more that you practice, right? So the skills that you obtain are directly related to what you take the time to learn. And while we all may have different learning styles, some of us are visual. We learn by seeing others do something. Maybe we just learn by hearing, or we learn by having to physically, do it and get our hands dirty. No matter what your learning style is, we all learn by repetition, right? By doing it over and over and over again. That's the only way you can become a master of your craft. I was maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was helping my younger niece with her high school geometry homework a few weeks ago. And she was in awe of, how I could solve the problems in different ways. And so I just explained to her that the only difference between you and I is that I've solved thousands of these problems and learned these many different ways of doing it and became a master at it. And the part that I love about this is that it has nothing to do with talent, right? This part here is just all effort. It's all the time that you put in, because you are what you repeatedly do. And so if you practice something enough, you're bound to become better at it. And so in particular, when I think of becoming a master of your skills, there is one particular person that comes to mind for me. Well, there are plenty of people, but the GOAT, the great Michael Jordan, the undisputed. I told y'all I'm from Chicago, so y'all shouldn't be surprised by this. Michael Jordan is who I would describe as someone who mastered his skills. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, he's 6'6", and he was incredibly gifted, right? But I would challenge that by saying that there are plenty of people in the world who are 6'6", and not even in the world. There are plenty of people just in the NBA who have his same physical stats, right? But for whatever reason, they didn't all become the GOAT, right? And the reason is because he took the time to practice and master his skills, right? Even when he doesn't feel like it, or he can't see the immediate benefit of it, right? So I'll tell you, during my time as a professor at Morehouse, the toughest question that I was ever asked from a student, it didn't come from one of my higher level classes that I taught. It came from a freshman level college algebra class. And the question that I was asked was, Dr. Wheaton, when am I ever going to use this stuff? And I knew in that moment that the next words that came out of my mouth is going to shape this guy's opinion of, or just shape his life in general in terms of how he's going to approach his work going forward. And so I took some time and I thought about it, and I said, honestly, I don't know what you're going to do with your life. This may be the last time you ever see a quadratic equation. But what I do know is that you are building habits, right? And if you start to build a habit of quitting or deciding that you're not going to put in the work or the effort to work on something where you can't see the immediate benefit, that's going to become what you do when every time you're faced with adversity. So even if you're never going to see this work again, at least put in the effort now and decide today that you're not going to be a quitter, right? You're going to put in the work, you're going to practice and become a master. So you need to commit, to the idea of becoming just a lifelong learner in general. And if you do that, you can overcome any challenge, just by using, your privilege of practice makes permanent, right? You're building your permanent habits. All right, so I know I've made y'all look at Michael Jordan for a few minutes there. I hope it's anybody who's out there who thought he wasn't the GOAT, mind has now been changed. But really, the reason why this is still relevant to this conversation is because rumor has it that Michael Jordan was actually a math major when he was in college. And so it turns out that he decided to monetize his skills in other ways that worked out for him, but it does relate because he was a math major. Okay. So though the focus of this talk is about monetizing your math skills, I would be remiss not to mention the importance of these other skills. So I'm curious, has anyone ever walked up to you out of the blue and said, "Hey, you're good at math, take my money"? I don't know about y'all, but that's never happened to me, right? So at some point, you're going to have to communicate your skills and capabilities to others, right? And that communication can take on many different forms, right? So whether that's written communication, writing essays or personal statements, right? Can you write an essay or a personal statement with a captivating introduction and 3 main points and the supporting details and a memorable conclusion, right? Also writing your resume, right? Are you able to physically write down what your skills and experiences are in the format of a resume? Or even with emails. Now, I know we're in a different age now where, we tend to email like we post on social media or like we write through text messages, but it'll set you apart if you can write an email with a greeting and salutation. Can you be concise and precise? Can you, write down your signature in this email, right? So I'm begging you, please don't email how you text. It may be old school, but it will set you apart, right? These are your first impressions that you may be making. You never know who's on the other side of that email and what kind of communication they value. All right. Also, one other tidbit that I want to point out here is with written communication, you always want to have someone proofread your writing, because when you spend a lot of time with something, it becomes a lot easier to kind of overlook some of your mistakes and things like that, or you just need a different perspective. You want someone to share with you, ways that you can improve your writing. So even to this day, any writing that I do, I have someone proofread it for me, or I'm spending time proofreading for others because I know how important that is. Right. And in addition to written communication, at some point you have to talk about your skills, right? Whether that's in interviews or you're going to some networking events, or maybe you're giving a presentation at a conference, or you're just attending a conference to meet with others and learn about the work that they're doing and things that they're opportunities that they're offering. You have to be able to verbally speak about your skills and what you bring to the table. Also, another skill that is increasingly important, especially in today's world, is the concept of marketing and branding. Right? That's not just only for businesses. What did Jay-Z say? I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Right? So you are a business. Right? And so just like with your math skills and your written communication, your verbal communication, you need to be focusing on your marketing and the branding of yourself, which is more than just your image and your reputation. What you're really doing is building genuine relationships with people, letting them know what you're capable of, what you bring to the table, and also what you can do for them, right? And you're influencing how people think of you and like what comes to mind when they remember you, right? That is really what marketing and branding is about. And what better way for people to remember you than, one, this person was genuine, right? And two, they bring a lot to the table. So you always want to be focused on making sure you're branding yourself. And so just like with your math skills, all of these things that I just spoke about here, they get better with practice and preparation, right? So the more you do it, the more opportunities you seek out, the better you'll become at these skills as well. So I didn't want to forget about including these skills, and we'll talk more throughout the presentation on how we can improve some of these skills and look for opportunities to do so. All right. Okay. So we just spoke about how we're going to prepare strategically, right? So how do we get ourselves ready to go out and secure opportunities to monetize your skills? And so now let's move into how we're going to properly secure the bag. All right, I couldn't resist. I went ahead and changed it to secure the bag. All right. So I want to kind of do this in a way where we shift from what I personally deem as opportunities that require the least amount of effort or time, and then we'll go into more of the opportunities where you're physically trading your time for money, right? And so for me, that starts with scholarships. This is just my opinion that scholarships require the least amount of effort and time in order to apply for them and hopefully obtain them, right? This is where you're going to see the greatest bang for your buck in terms of the amount of time you have to put in. And so this goes without saying, but in addition, I believe you all should be applying for whatever scholarship your schools already offer or your department. But in addition to those that are offered by your school, please, please, please apply for external opportunities, right? There are plenty of people. If you're a STEM major, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, mostly everyone here is, there are programs out there that are practically throwing money at you, right? And so I highly recommend that you please make sure you apply for external scholarship opportunities. And particularly, I am partial to those that put the money directly in your pocket. I'm fine with the ones that will send the money to your school as well. And in some cases, you won't find out until after you apply anyway. I just know that I'm particular to ones that put the money directly in your pocket, because there are sometimes the school will try to apply, that scholarship to your tuition or fees first before they apply theirs, or they may roll theirs back. And it depends on how your school operates. But you don't have to worry about that if it's a scholarship that puts it directly in your pocket. So good examples of those that typically do that are, you'll see like your local alumni associations, or local alumni fraternity and sorority chapters. These are places that I got outside scholarships from that would put the money directly in my pocket. And the great thing about those is you don't even have to be a member, nor do you have to have the desire to join that organization, right? I got scholarships from competing fraternities and ultimately didn't end up joining any of them. But they're looking for someone who's going to be a good representation of their scholarship program, whether you join their fraternity or sorority or not. They just want to make sure that you're going to be someone who represents them positively, comes back and lets them know about your progress and your success, and just genuinely communicates with them, and helps to push their program forward. That's really the main thing. Okay, I do want to open this up just for a little bit of dialogue. You can, whether you want to come off mute and answer one of these questions, or if you want to type it in the chat or raise your hand. I think there's a Zoom feature that allows you to raise your hand if you want to, speak or say anything. I want to focus on the first question just to try to make this a little bit interactive. So anyone, what do you think is the main reason that some students do not apply for scholarships? I will take a look at the chat, or if anyone wants to share, feel free to let me know.
I think people just assume they're not going to win them, so they don't try.
Yes, is that Jenna?
Yeah.
Jenna, yes, that's a great point. I'm seeing lack of confidence. Oh man, y'all, they're throwing in. They don't think they qualify. Not knowing where to look, that's good. Too many essays, all right. I'm gonna try to pronounce it. I think it's Laida or Leda. I'm gonna steal your answer. So all of you, everyone, you are correct, right? There are many different reasons. It may be that they can't find them, or there are too many requirements. They feel like they're not going to win. Lack of confidence, things like that. I'm just going to talk from my personal experience. Everyone is right. I mean, all of you have given right answers, but I agree with Laida, and that is in most cases. Every time I've talked to someone about a scholarship that they didn't want to apply for, and even myself at times, it was that they did not want to write the essay or the personal statement. And this is where we go back to where I spoke about the importance of building your written communication, right? The importance of perfecting those written communication skills, because the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with writing about your skills and writing about, yourself and what your dreams are and what you hope to achieve. The more you do it, the better you get, and you start to build these permanent habits. And the one thing that I discovered after applying for many, many scholarships is that most of the time, all the scholarships are asking you to write about the same thing. So really, you only have to write maybe 1 or 2 essays, and then you can tweak them to apply to whatever that direct scholarship is that you're applying for. And so typically, I was using the same essay over and over again for most of the applications that I did. Maybe every now and then you would get an off the wall one that's asking you to write about something that no other scholarship is asking you to. But in general, most of them are asking you to write about yourself, what you've done, what you hope to accomplish, and tell us something unique about yourself, things like that, which would apply across the board. And so if that is indeed something that is holding you back from applying for scholarships, I encourage you to continue to get better at your written communication and use this as an opportunity to continue to get better, and reach out to people that who have good writing skills and are available to help critique your writing and help take you to the next level. So I hope that is not something that's holding you all back. And if so, just do everything you can to try to get better at it. And so the other question, I think some of you mentioned this as well, is that some people who don't apply for scholarships just don't know how to find them. So I'm curious to know, what do you guys think is the best way to go about finding scholarships? We can do this the same way. I can look through the chat, or if anyone wants to come off mute and give their thoughts or raise your hand, it's fine with me. I'm going to try to keep up. Y'all are flowing in. I'm loving the engagement. All right, I wore y'all out with the last question. Okay, I'll give my opinion again. This is just personally from me. I believe that the best way to go about finding out about scholarships is typically going to be through word of mouth, and specifically from your scholarship coordinators that are at your school or your professors, right? And again, this is where it becomes important to build relationships with people, right? Where you're marketing and branding yourself, and you're going out and making connections with the scholarship coordinator at your school, or making connections with professors, because these people are hearing about opportunities all the time. They are getting things emailed to them left and right saying, hey, I've got this scholarship that I need 5 people to apply for. Tell me who you have in mind that you think would be good for this. And at that point, you want to have a relationship so strong with your scholarship coordinator or with your professors that you're the first person that they think of when they hear of these opportunities, right? And then guess what? An additional portion of typically of applying for scholarships is you're going to need letters of recommendation, right? And it's if someone is recommending you for, if they're reaching out to you, telling you about these different scholarships that they're hearing about, they will also be willing to write a letter of recommendation for you. And I'll tell you a couple of stories on my end, which Dr. Williams or Dwight can also vouch for us. When I was in college, I used to spend at least 3 to 4 hours a week in our scholarship coordinator's office. Not necessarily there just asking her about opportunities, but just there building a genuine relationship, right? We would talk about anything from my classes, how things were going, the girls I was trying to talk to at the time, or sports, anything, just there getting on her nerves every week consistently and building that relationship so that every time she heard of opportunities, she would reach out to me, right? And so even to this day, I graduated 10 years ago. I just got a call from her this past summer where she's reaching out to me about another opportunity. 10 years later, the impression that I made on her is still having her think about me and realize that this guy is going to take advantage of opportunities that I give to him. So she's calling me 10 years later to let me know. And even with my academic advisor, Same thing. I was in his office every week, even if I didn't need help with anything. I'm just there, to chop it up and just talk with him about anything in general, building that relationship. And so now, again, 10 years later, he calls me this summer and says, hey, I was meeting with the president of this university. They've got an opening. I know you have a job already. I'm just in case you're interested in reaching out to him and starting to build a relationship with him. And maybe if it comes up in the future that you want to go to his university, he's going to be happy to have you just because I told him about you. 10 years later, right? He's still thinking about, oh, Ira's a guy who's going to take advantage of opportunities. And if not, he's going to at least build a genuine relationship with them. And so don't ever underestimate the people that are on your campus that you can go and build relationships with. And maybe, I'm going to try not to say, don't do this specifically for the opportunities. The goal should be to build genuine relationships. And the fruit of that is that whenever opportunities come up that these people hear about, you'll be the first person that they think of to mention and to recommend you for those, right? Okay, I saw a few things in the chat. All right, yep, your school also has them online. I agree with that. Right? Yes, the scholarship office, there was nothing like it, right? There like it wasn't another home. Yes, okay, sorry, I had to process what your words meant just now. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay, I need to move right along. Okay, so we just spoke about scholarships. That's one way to, one opportunity to monetize your skills. Next up, we're going to start to talk about tutoring, right? This is where we start to transition into physically trading your time for money, right? So with scholarships, you're not necessarily spending, 1 hour to get paid for that hour. You just put in the time to apply, and then you wait and see if you win or if you're awarded the scholarship. And once you move into tutoring, we're talking about physically saying, okay, I need to put in the time to, to get back the money, right? And so, but it's still worth it, right? Even though it's not the same bang for your buck that scholarships may be, but this is still totally worth it. And in case you didn't know, tutoring is near and dear to my heart. As I mentioned earlier, I was a tutor in the math lab at FAMU. And so not only is this where I became a master of my math skills, but it's what helped me realize that I wanted to be a professor one day. I would have never known that if I didn't become a tutor. And so if you want to know whether you truly understand something, try to teach it to someone else and try to teach it in a clear and concise manner that they can understand. I promise you'll find out that either you don't know as much as you think you know, or two, there's an opportunity for you to get better in your communication, or three, you realize that this is my passion and this is what I want to do. And this is a wonderful way for you to perfect your math skills, because this is where I got the opportunity to solve thousands and thousands of problems, because I was literally solving the same types of problems day in and day out, just with different students at different times, right? And so I was there, I got paid $9 an hour at the time. I don't know what the going rate is at FAMU now for tutors, but we worked hard for that money and we had some great times doing it. And so for those of you that are interested in tutoring, how can you go about finding tutoring opportunities? Well, firstly, you can go to your school's math department and see if you guys have a math lab. That's a great place to start, and you'll definitely get students to tutor. And if your department does not have a tutoring lab, if it doesn't exist there, I think you should make a strong recommendation to your department, because that's a wonderful investment that they can make to grow and develop the talent that they have in their department, not only from growing the tutor side, but even the students that are getting tutored. If they have access to tutoring, then they are in turn getting better and getting better grades and better understanding of the material. In addition to that, typically your school's athletics program has opportunities for tutors. I remember I tutored in the athletics program at Florida State for a little while, so that's another avenue that you can explore. There are plenty of tutoring websites online that are looking for tutors. I try not to put specific ones here, but if you just do a quick Google search, you'll find some. Or you can take the route of deciding to be your own boss, and you can find your own clients and set your own hourly rate. I also did this, back in my day, we used Craigslist to find clients that needed tutoring. I don't know how prevalent Craigslist still is to this day. I have retired from tutoring, so I haven't been keeping up with how we're finding clients these days. But back then, I think I was charging maybe $25 an hour or something like that. So again, you decide what your rate is, and you can go about trying to find clients. And I hear you. There are some of you saying, Dr. Wheaton, we're still in the pandemic. I am not trying to get close with people to tutor them and put myself at risk. Well, another opportunity is you can tutor on Zoom, right? If there's one thing that the pandemic has taught us, is that there's a lot of stuff that we can use technology for to be a little bit more efficient. And Zoom is a wonderful platform for you to launch your tutoring opportunities or your tutoring business. All right, so we got scholarships, we got tutoring. I also hear you. You're saying, Dr. Wheaton, I don't even want to tutor, or I don't want to teach. I just want to get my hands dirty and work on the real, challenging and fun problems, right? And so for those of you that are, interested in that lane, there's undergraduate research opportunities and or internships, right? In my personal opinion, these are the ultimate resume and personal statement builders. So while I didn't participate in any REUs, which is research experience for undergraduates, I did, as I mentioned, I did have an internship all 4 summers of my college career, 2 of them being at the NASA Johnson Space Center. But yeah, this is where you get to gain experience and apply your knowledge and your math skills to real world problems. And I say that these are the ultimate resume and personal statement builders because that's where you get to really beef up your statement and say, okay, this is what I've done. This is what I learned. These are the skills that I applied to this real problem. These were the results of what I did. And that's really what, schools are looking for, or schools and or jobs, depending on what you want to do after. It is 2021. So in my opinion, by now, all internships should be paid. I'm very vocal about, not being a fan of working for free. I am not going to bash unpaid internships because I recognize that opportunity is opportunity. But I am partial towards internships that are actually paid because you're spending your time. Not only are you developing your skills and things like that, but you're making a contribution to a larger effort, and you deserve to be compensated for that. So that is my recommendation. And the other great thing about research and internships is it gives you a chance typically to give you more opportunities to improve your verbal communication skills, right? Because your research typically yields to, having to do presentations or attending conferences to present your research and things like that. And what better way to improve your verbal, communication skills or public speaking skills than to actually have opportunities to present research, all right? I agree. I think someone said all internships should be paid. Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Okay. All right. I'm just checking to see how I'm doing on time. Okay. This is a very similar question to what we talked about before, which is, I asked, what do you think was the best way to go about finding internships? I'm just switching it up to what's the best way to find out about undergraduate research opportunities and internships. The same rings true from what I mentioned earlier. I think that the best way to go about this is through word of mouth, and that people that are being reached out to all the time about these opportunities. Also, in particular, you have professors on campus that have research grants, and a part of their grant is typically to find a research assistant who's able to help and provide assistance with their research. And they have grants that provide opportunity to pay you for that work. So again, building relationship with your professors is a quick way for them to say, oh, I'm thinking about David, who was in my class and he got an A and he mastered this material. He developed this skill. I know that he can apply what he learned to this research project that I'm doing. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if he's interested in this project, right? Or, even in general, if you reach out to them and say, hey, I noticed that you do research on XYZ, and this is a field that I'm interested in getting in. Is there any way that you have an assistantship available that I can come on and help with, right? Or also your academic advisors. If your school has a student success center, you can reach out to them about opportunities for research and internships. My fun story for me is that the 2 NASA internships that I had came from my professor, my academic advisor. He heard about this opportunity. Someone emailed him and said, hey, I'm looking for a student to apply for this program and get to work at NASA. He told me about the opportunity. Just like many of you, I thought that I wouldn't qualify or that I wouldn't get it. And so he had to hound me every day. I didn't want to write the essay. He had to hound me every day and say, look, they reached out to me about this opportunity and they wanted me to choose my best student. I chose you. All you have to do is apply. And after I got over myself, stopped being lazy and stopped being worried about whether or not I would actually get it, I applied. And of course I got it. And I got to work at NASA for 2 summers, right? Which is an experience that many people would kill for, right? Maybe not kill for, it's probably not the best word to use, but they would love to have, right? So that's I always look back on that moment. Same professor that called me this summer and said, hey, I was speaking with the president of a university. I mentioned your name to him. One other source that I would hate to neglect. Another good way to hear about undergraduate research opportunities and internships is from your peers, right? Your peers are also hearing about opportunities, or they're searching for things, and they're hearing about things that maybe they're not interested in, but because they're close with you and they know, hey, Light is interested in applied physics, maybe I am not, but here's an opportunity that I heard of. I'm gonna shoot this over to her, and so she can apply for it, right? And so that's why you also want to, again, not only be building relationships with professors and academic advisors, with your peers as well. Build a network. Everyone on this call, right? They should be in your network, right? And that you guys are hearing about different opportunities and sharing them with each other. All right, so we've got scholarships, we've got tutoring, we've got undergraduate research and internships. And now let's talk a little bit about social media, right? This is where we start to venture a little bit more into risk taking and maybe not seeing immediate returns for your efforts, like with tutoring or doing research where you physically get paid for the hours you work. This is a little different when you move into the social media realm, but the potential earnings are unlimited, right? And so in the case of tutoring, right, there's certainly a large group of people who need tutoring, but they can't afford it. And so they turn to YouTube, right? Well, if you have a YouTube channel where you're solving problems and teaching people how to do, certain, work on certain material, you can build a following and get paid for your content by fulfilling this need, right? Or even if you just post creative problems of the day, right? Maybe on your Instagram or on your TikTok. A simple problem with order of operations. I don't know if you guys see this on social media, but those typically generate lots of interaction where people are going through and they don't realize that they have to multiply before they add, or they have to, do the parentheses before the exponents, things like that. And you've got people arguing in the comments. Oh, the answer is 24. No, the answer is 6. Oh, the answer is 24. I got 20. How did you get that? Even if you're just building, you're just posting simple problems like that, you can build. You can get lots of interaction on your page, which in turn gets eyes to your page, which now social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok are they're paying people for their content. And so these are apps that you guys are on anyway, right? You spend time on them anyway. So why not try to build a genuine following, right? You can, if you just need to add some math to your TikToks, if you want to, that's a good way to go about monetizing your skills. There's also entrepreneurship, right? So maybe you don't want to physically tutor people, but you're interested in, connecting people that are, one, looking for tutoring, and two, looking for tutoring opportunities to tutor. So maybe you start your own service where you hire tutors and connect them with clients, right? Or maybe another avenue is something that I've actually done, which is you can start a consulting business where you can, assist other small businesses with analyzing data, right? And so I'm pretty confident that you guys are surrounded by entrepreneurs all around your campus, and every good entrepreneur values data and wants to make some data-driven decisions. So if you can develop the skill of data analysis and being able to communicate, how to make decisions based on what the data tells you and not necessarily your gut feeling, right? That's a whole business in itself, which is what I've been semi-successful doing, right? Or, there are no limitations. You can start any business, right? And in the words of the great Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the roof, right? There are no limitations. So take the roof off and open your mind and think outside the box, and you can start any business and monetize your skills with. Okay, so that is a very, I think it covers a lot, right? So we've got scholarships, tutoring, research and internships, how to use social media, entrepreneurship. These are all different opportunities for you to monetize your skills. You just got to pick which one or two or three that works for you and go at it full force. Okay, so you've prepared strategically for the money, then you properly secure the bag. Now, what do you do once you've got the money, right? How do you manage it? How do you protect and save the money? So I'm just going to give some general financial management or budget tips that we'll walk through for once you get the money. So it is truly my hope and desire that each of you has an overflow and an abundance of currency that comes your way. But it would mean nothing if you don't know and practice how to manage it, right? So the first thing that I think you should do anytime you get money is to pay your future self. That is another way to think of saving. So save some coins for a rainy day. Don't spend it all as soon as you get it. So why do we save? There are many different reasons why, but firstly, we save for emergencies, right? You never know when something may happen, something may come up that you need to have money for. So in general, the general recommendation is that you want to have 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses saved up. And that doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time and some discipline over time to save up that amount of money so that you feel confident that if an emergency comes up, I don't have to, go crazy trying to figure out how I'm going to take care of things. Or you save for big purchases, right? If you're moving soon, or you need a new car, or whatever the case may be, you set aside the money and save up for purchases that are going to happen. And then in general, you just want to practice good stewardship, right? How do I manage what I've been given, right? And so if you learn how to practice restraint with your spending, then it'll translate to other areas of your life. Once you've paid your future self and saved up, now it's time for you to take care of your responsibilities and obligations, right? So we're talking about living expenses, rent, utilities, food, all those things. If you have any school-related expenses, maybe you don't have a full scholarship and you need to pay some of your fees, or you need to buy books or meal plan, whatever the case may be. Taking care of all those things now. And then we all have different, responsibilities and obligations. Some of us maybe need to support our family back home, or maybe you have children, things like that. All that falls under this category of making sure that whatever it is for you, you take care of your responsibilities and your obligations. So once you've paid your future self and you've taken care of your obligations and responsibilities, then you want to pay your current self, right? At some point, you need to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? Recognize that college isn't forever. These 4 years or 5 years, however long it takes you, is going to fly by. So you want to have fun. Make sure you don't take this time for granted. All you have to do is just set a budget according to what you can afford and try to make the most of it, right? Make sure you have fun. Pay your current self and enjoy the money that you work so hard to obtain. Next up, after you've paid your future self, you've taken care of responsibilities, then you've paid your current self, maybe you want to look at investing, right? And wisely, I repeat, wisely, right? So I actually started investing in stocks during my junior year of college. I had some success and made some good returns. And then I got greedy. I made the mistake of trying to get rich quick by investing in some penny stocks. And needless to say, I lost every single dime that I put into some penny stocks. So please believe me when I say invest wisely, right? Why do we invest? There are multiple reasons why, but mainly for retirement. It's never too early to plan for retirement. I remember when I was in the scholarship office one day, the scholarship coordinator, Miss O'Neill, she had a guest lady in there with her. They were having a conversation. I walked in my usual self thinking that, I'm the man, I'm loud and obnoxious, just talking. And Miss O'Neill introduced me to this lady, and she tried to teach me about the concept of a Roth IRA, which is an individual retirement account. Mind you, I'm about 21 years old at this time. She's teaching me this concept of how you've got tax advantages and things like that. But it didn't register to me at 21 because I'm thinking retirement is so far from my mind at this point. Why would I start a retirement account? And here we are 10 years later. Now I'm thinking about retirement. So if I had taken her advice 10 years ago, I would be so much further ahead than where I am right now. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to start and I'm going to get there at some point. But when someone tries to teach you these things, when you're in college at this point, try to be a little bit forward thinking and receive that information. Don't be like I was and just kind of brushed it off and said, oh, I'll be fine. I'll worry about that when the time comes. Try to plan ahead if you're in a position to be able to. Also for wealth building, unfortunately, it's very difficult to save your way to wealth. Typically, you have to invest, right? Even if you save every dime that you make, which is virtually impossible, but saving a lot, you still have to deal with things like inflation, and things like that make it very difficult to save. So you have to invest to try to take advantage of things like compound interest. Okay, I need to move it along because I just realized I'm over time. But there are plenty of opportunities for investments, stocks, cryptocurrencies, mutual funds, IRAs, things like that. Just educate yourself on whatever route that works for you and matches your level of risk comfortability. And get started, right? Don't wait too late. Just if you're in a position to, please get started. One of the most underrated aspects of financial management is giving back, right? You want to give back to your college or your department, to your scholarship foundation, to your community, or to wherever your heart desires, right? This is an area that I admittedly can grow and get better in, but I recognize that it's important to pay it forward so that the next generation can have access to the same resources that I had access to and more, right? And this is truly one of life's greatest joys. So I am constantly trying to get better in this area, but I know that when you have it to give and you're in a position where you're able to, there's few greater feelings in the world than being able to give back and help out others and to keep the program going that was beneficial in your life. Okay, so I have spoken about a lot today. Let's do a quick recap. First, we talked about how we're going to prepare strategically for the money, right? We're going to keep adding these new skills and perfecting them or making them permanent habits, right? Just like a basketball player who's in this bag. Can y'all tell how much I like basketball at this point? You want to have a bag full of tricks or a bag full of skills that you worked hard to add, and you take advantage of the opportunities that are available and suitable for your skills, right? So you're gonna, after you prepare strategically, then you're gonna properly secure the bag. Then we're gonna protect and save the money. You're gonna make and follow a plan for how you'll manage the money. You're gonna tell your money where to go so you don't have to wonder where it went, right? I feel like I should say that one more time. You're going to tell your money where to go so you don't have to wonder where it went. Right? I learned that from a guy called Dave Ramsey. Okay, so a little unrelated to the talk, but whenever I'm in a setting like this where I have the opportunity to impart some wisdom on people who I feel like are in the shoes that I was in not too long ago, I try not to pass up that opportunity. So these are just a few nuggets that are maybe cliche, but at the same time, I want them to stick with you guys. So first things first, you can do anything that you set your mind to. Everything that I talked about today starts in your mind. You have to decide, okay, I'm going to do that, and then go and do it, right? If you don't tell yourself you can do it, there's a high chance, high probability that you won't do it. And we talked about monetizing your skills, right? And I'm a firm believer in working smart. So use your intelligence as much as you can, but it's never enough. At some point, working smart is going to turn into you having to put in some hard work, right? So use your intelligence as much as you can, then use your hard work to go further or farther. I'm not really sure which is correct in this case, but if you know, please let me know and educate me. And then finally, cherish time with your family and good friends. Whenever I reminisce on my college days, it is always, always, always thoughts of fun times and fun moments that I made with friends. Friends that are still legit friends till this day. You know, I also think of how proud my family was when I walked across the graduation stage, right? You know, so I know we're all battling different issues and facing unique obstacles. But if you're blessed with a good family and good friends, please do not take it for granted, right? Make the most of each moment that you have because it goes by so fast, y'all. I feel like I was in college yesterday and you look up and it's been 10 years, right? So please enjoy it while you can. Cherish the time that you have with your family and your friends. Okay, I've said a lot. Now it's your turn. Any questions?
Thank you, thank you. Can we give a hand to Dr. Wheaton, please?
Can I clap for myself?
You can clap for yourself. Get yourself, clap for yourself. I think the best way, if the questions can go in the chat, but you can also use the raise hand feature, unmute yourself, and I think that way you'll be seen, and we want you to be seen so we can, it's a lot of good things to talk about. I will say there was an earlier question, kind of, maybe tongue in cheek, but do we buy the Jordans? Do we buy the J's?
Do we buy them?
Yeah.
If you can afford them, I'll leave it at that. You decide what you can afford.
Pay yourself, maybe. Yeah, there we go.
All right, I've got a question. Why did you decide to pursue an engineering PhD? Which is a great question that I can talk about all day long. I will do my best to give the short version of the story. While I was doing my master's in financial mathematics, my master's project was focused on optimizing an investment portfolio. And in that process, I discovered some topics in the area of operations research and optimization, which is a staple in the field of industrial engineering. And so I decided that this is what I want to study, and this is where my interests lie. And so I decided to go to the industrial engineering department at Florida State to do that, which was a great decision for me. Right? Thank you. Great question. I'm happy to talk about that more if I need to. Fam, you in the house.
Yeah, we may have time to continue that in the second half. There's another question in the chat.
Yes. How did you pick your grad school? Any tips on finances there? Absolutely. So similar to my undergraduate experience, I think I told y'all I applied to 10 different colleges. I applied to about roughly 10 different graduate schools. How did I choose to? I chose Florida State for many reasons. One of them being related to finances, right? They offered me, I had a fellowship from the McKnight Doctoral Fellowship Program, which would pay for all my tuition and fees for any school in Florida. And also gave me a stipend, I think of like $12,000 for a year. And then on top of that, Florida State also offered me an assistantship. And so financially, it made sense to go there. And then on top of that, I was interested in the financial math program there at first, and then that translated into me being really interested in optimization. Not to mention, I was familiar with the area. I went to undergraduate right across the train tracks, so I still had friends there, so I was familiar with the territory. Yeah, so that's how I ended up choosing Florida State. And then to your second question, which is about any tips on finances, for how for undergraduate you typically apply for scholarships. For grad school, you typically apply for fellowships. So fellowships are much like scholarships in that you technically don't have to work for them. The goal is to help you be able to focus on your studies and not have to work as well. And in addition to fellowships, there are assistantships, which you can have either a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, which is where you get paid to actually do a little bit of work, right? But it's typically in the same area of what your graduate degree is going to be in. So if you're in a research assistantship, you have to do research for your graduate program anyway. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really talking about PhD here. So if we're talking about master's, that's a slightly separate conversation, but I'm mainly focusing on PhD here. Yeah, if you're going to be getting a PhD, you got to do research anyway. So a research assistantship is perfect. It's like you're getting paid to do what you were going to do anyway. A teaching assistantship is a little bit different because you don't necessarily have to teach in order to get your PhD. But if it is where your heart lies and what your desire is, if you want to be a teaching professor at some point, that's what I did, right? I was a teaching assistant. So yeah, so fellowships, assistantships are typically what you want to look for when going to graduate school.
That note, I want to thank you again, and I want to end the recording and continue on. We all know that this topic can be very custom or personal, so it'll be a great opportunity to delve into that a little bit more. So I'll end the recording now.